where it can show up in our life. Then we can see the patterns of how it impacts our life. And then we can say, okay, is this serving me or is it not serving me? And we can make the adjustment to make a change to a whole new direction, whole new possibility. And so taking action small steps is just one of those principles. And so the way how we're going to help discover the power of take action with small steps is a little strategy, what we call is the boat and the submarine. Okay. So there's no wrong answers to this, Bernie. But I want you to think about, imagine there's this submarine over here, and then there's the boat over here. Now, the objective of the submarine is to sink the boat. In your mind, I want you to just count how many steps would it take for the submarine to sink the boat. For example, maybe the captain gives an order or presses a button. Just think about, in your mind, there's no right or wrong answer. Just think about, even to guess a number, how many steps do you think it would take for the submarine to sink the boat?
I have no idea.
No idea?
100? I don't know.
100? Okay. So what would be some specific kind of processes? So what would be the first step, do you think?
Well, is it close to the submarine or is it not close? Is the boat close to the submarine or not?
That's a good question. Exactly. What is the distance? Like, are they beside each other? Are they farther apart? So let's assume they're far apart, right? And the submarine is can see the boat in line. Let's say it's like, I don't know, a football field away, and it wants to sink it. So imagine you're now the captain. You want to sink that submarine. How would you do that?
Sink the boat.
Get the right distance from it, I suppose, to give the orders to get the right distance, whatever that distance is. I have no earthly idea.
Okay.
Check equipment. I don't know. Get permission from other powers that be in authorities and radio contact, and they probably got to pass it on to a few other people.
Yeah.
I don't know. Send it back. Send a few messages back. A lot of discussion. I have no idea. Sorry.
Okay. So that's great. So let me ask you a question. Let's say you fired a torpedo and end up sinking the boat. What sank the boat? Was it the missile? What would you say sank the boat?
The explosive devices inside the torpedo.
Okay, yeah. So let's kind of break it down. See, the important thing is, once we realize that everything that we have in our life has a certain process to it, it goes step by step by step. And once we find out what the outcome we want, we can backwards engineer it. So let's say, for example, step number one is the captain calls, the group together that, hey, we're gonna fire a torpedo at this boat. Okay. So step number one. Step number two is they give instructions to the person to fire. Right. So the torpedo is launched, and then it's going through the water through the propeller towards the boat.
Okay.
It's gonna hit the boat, and that's going to trigger an explosion, and the explosion is going to end up filling it with water, and the water sinks the boat, right? Okay. So if you look at that, if we say, okay, what sank the boat? Majority of people say, well, it was the torpedo. Actually, it was the hole that either the explosion was so big, just blew the whole thing apart, or it created the hole and filled it up with water, and the water sank the boat.
Okay.
So we have things in our life, like when we talk to youth, when we come to schools, we ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? A lot of them say, oh, I want to be a doctor. I want to be an accountant. I want to own a restaurant. Or they would say, I want to, my mind's kind of going blank for professions, but one says, I want to be famous. Like, awesome. So what do you need to do to get there? They said, oh, I go to school. I graduate. So they're connecting their whole goal like one step, right? Instead of seeing what is the end goal they want and seeing all the visiting points they're gonna go through, just like the submarine. And then once they realize what they want, once they realize what they want, they can see exactly why everything they do has a purpose. So they understand, okay, this is why I go to school, because this is gonna help me get my goal. And once they can see all the steps, they can now see on the way all the opportunities that are available to them. Because now more than ever, youth have more opportunities with technology and resources than ever before. And there's so many people that want to help them. But if they don't have any clarity for their goal, right, it's going to be really hard to get there. Lev, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, and thanks, Matthew. So the principle, or not the principle, the activity of the boat and submarine is to get them thinking in small steps. So when you're thinking in smaller steps, you start to envision, there's more to it than just kind of like go through life treading through and floating through, and then all of a sudden you get to where you want to get to. Well, life doesn't always work out that way, and life doesn't always work out following each step also. So life kind of goes tipsy turvy. That something happens, and then some of the steps that you made forward, they're now you have to readjust. But that's totally cool. As long as you get a place to start and start envisioning and mapping your life out, you start to gain clarity, and clarity is really important here. So part of what we work on in this specific session is we call it a life folder. And what we do is students get a chance to have a folder where they start to map out exactly what it is that they want to get to in life. And, it can be permanent or it might not be. When I was young, I didn't say I'm going to be a business owner owning a carpet cleaning company, but that's what happened, right? So when they have this goal, at least they can start moving towards that goal. And if they choose to change that goal, totally cool. But at least they have the tools to be able to do that. So in this life folder, they get to map out however long they want their goal to be and the small steps that go within that goal. So maybe it comes down to a very granular where, I want to graduate from this class and I want to get an A in this class so that I can get to the university that I want to get to, all the way down to, well, I need to wake up on time to go to class on time. I need to go to bed earlier so that I'm not tired in the morning, so that I can wait in class. But it becomes very granular, and students, once they see this opportunity for themselves, whatever it is that they're dealing with in life, because every student's got their own unique circumstance that they deal with, they then get a chance to apply these tools. So part of that life folder is to really get them clear on what those steps are. And yeah, so then they get to draw that out. But that life folder we use for the rest of the program, because what's going to happen is we also apply other principles that go into this life folder. And it's really cool because now they get to keep this life folder after they're done the program, and they get to adjust it. They get to, use it for other purposes or whatever it is that they envision in life. And yeah, I don't want to go through those other principles because then we get into long-winded conversations, but that's just a little taste of what we're up to.
Right. So Bernie, I want you to think about in your life, where do you see how taking action with small steps can show up in your life?
I don't know, everything. Like, because I'm in school, like the kids studying hard, taking proper notes in class, attending properly tend to do better. But it's not just one class that makes the difference. It's like an accumulation. Taking one class in a year isn't going to make a huge impact. That constant skipping is going to be a problem. And yeah, so it's it's like an accumulation of small steps to be successful or to fail.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the biggest things that the reason why we all suffer with this was the idea of procrastination. Like, well, I'll do that later, and it's because we make such a big thing such a small thing so big, right? And so I know my friend Lev here. One of his goals is to write a book. So if he says, "Hey, Bernie, I want to write a book," and then if he's not making progress on it, it's because he's procrastinating on it. But if, let's say, for example, he says, okay, well, I'm gonna write one chapter a day. Well, that's pretty big. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna write maybe one page a day or one word a day, right? Break it down to the smallest step, because when you take action on the first step, it leads to the next step. Like one of my friends, he's a fitness coach, and one of the things he helps people do is they just say, hey, listen, before you do anything, I just want you to start journaling your food, because if you don't have any control on your food, it doesn't really matter whatever I help you out with when it comes to exercise, right? So it's all about taking action small steps. So one example for me is I set a goal last year that I wanted to do an Ironman. So that was like a huge goal that I'm gonna do an Ironman. And the funny thing is, I didn't even know what an Ironman was. I just saw it on this movie called um,
Iron Cowboy.
yeah, Iron Cowboy. It's on Netflix, and this guy did 50 Ironmans in 50 days in 50 different states. And I was like, wow, if this guy can do 50, I can do one. And I started to take action towards that. But then when I realized, like, okay, maybe just set up a smaller goal. So my goal is to do an Olympic triathlon, which is 1/4 of an Ironman by the end of the year. The only problem was this was about in 8 weeks, and I didn't know how to swim. Meaning that if you put me in water, I wouldn't drown, but it would be a lot of splashing to be close to drowning. So I just started saying, okay, I'm gonna start, going to the pool 5 days a week, and I'm just gonna figure this out. And so I started to go. I started watching YouTube videos. Some people of my friends saw me sharing my progress on social media. So long story short, but within that 8 weeks, I attracted a swimming coach, a fitness coach, a bike, like everything just started to show up as I took action with small steps. And then I ended up being able to do the Olympic triathlon, which ended up helping fund our money towards the charity that we were doing for Children's Wish, right? So that's just like an example when it comes to fitness, right? But when we teach this principle to the students, they can see like, oh, this is why it's important. Because when we first start the program, we ask them, what is your goal? And some of their goals, like it could be short term. They say, I just want to pass my class. Some people say, hey, they know exactly what they want. But the more that we can give them the tools, the more they can keep for themselves. And one of the things we ask them at the end is, hey, how can you teach this concept to someone else, right? So Bernie, if you were to teach us or even a friend about the principle of taking action to small steps, how in your own words would you describe that? Let's say we were totally fresh, we're meeting for coffee, and you're like, hey, I want to teach you something about the power of taking action to small steps. How would you teach?
I have no idea. Just no, I don't know. Being me on the spot, I have to think about these things if I can tell anybody about them. No, I don't know. Sorry.
No, that's okay. It's like, again, if you were
So
just
if you took the 90 minutes of our program, you would be able to teach it back to your friends.
right.
And that's the power of leadership, is not just being able to memorize something, but being able to understand it and being able to teach it back to others. It puts you in a different position of how you understand that kind of content. Being a teacher, Bernie, that you are, it's totally different than being a student, right? The concept completely shifts, and the way you understand content or the way you understand the principles are completely different. So that's awesome, and we really appreciate you being on here. It really gives us, it gives the power of community to have you on here and speaking with us.
So one last thing before we let you go, Bernie. So with all the parents that are watching or they're going to be watching, our program, we're launching May 26th. We're going to have for 9 weeks. These youth are going to be participating in a great program. The intention of the course is they go through the 9 weeks, they graduate, and they can come back for the next and teach it to their peers and their friends, and eventually become like a paid profession. So with all the parents that are watching right now, what's just one message that you can give from your experience, from your background, that could empower these parents? Because right now they're dealing also in a whole new world. Before, the person that was in charge of their education was the teacher, but now they're in charge of the education, right? And so what's one message that you can give to the parents from your perspective?
I don't know. Well, when you're teaching online, when you're teaching kids online, it's not like the parents are in charge of the education. We're still giving them lessons. I'm still teaching online about 6 hours a day, every day. Actively teaching on Zoom now. So, I mean, I don't want to come down on parents, but the thing they mostly have to do is make sure that their kids are sitting in front of the computer listening to Zoom. They don't have to really educate them. They just have to make sure that
There.
they're attending class. So
How can they support them on, because it's different being in school and learning with your classmates, but now they're at home. So how can they support these youth that are spending 6 hours a day in front of the computer?
yeah, and just keep encouraging them. You know, the system at some point will end, or it will significantly improve, and we'll find a better way of doing it. So right now, all we got is Zoom. So some of the kids, especially morning classes, it's kind of funny. They don't even want to turn their camera on because they're sitting in bed doing their classwork. And then you say, well, okay, I need to know that it's actually you. And they'll say, okay, just a second. And the one kid actually said to me, just let me put on a shirt first. Like, oh gosh, okay, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. So yeah, but the thing that would help the kids to succeed at this is parents getting them up, getting them going, just like a school day.
Yeah, just treat it like every day.
At the bus stop, they just have to make sure that they're sitting at a desk instead of hanging out in bed till by 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Dress up for success. You dress up, you go up, right? So thank you so much, Bernie, for your time. I appreciate you. Hope you have a great Sunday. I'm just gonna, Lev and I are gonna send one message left to the parents. But thank you for being our guest. And
I don't know what to say really. Sorry.
no, you shared a lot on your perspective, right? So, and also thank you so much for sharing and asking people to about the program. We're both getting some great feedback on that.
Okay. All right.
So,
Bernie.
bye, Bernie.
Have a good one. Bye bye.
So for just last message for the for those who are still tuning in, if you're just tuning in and you're just seeing this and what exactly this is about, again, this is about our youth program. We're launching it May 26th. We're about 50% over 50% capacity right now. It's a free program. We would love for you to have, and if we can have one ask for you, if you can either, if you haven't seen the whole video, rewatch the beginning of this because it will be on my Facebook page. If I can ask you to just do one thing, our goal is to have our show in front of 400 parents over the next couple of weeks because we want to have at least 40 students in there. So you're either a parent, you have access to parents. If you can go on Facebook and start a watch party after this video is done and just play it in the background, it will help. It will be like a free commercial for the youth. And it's one of the best ways that we can go out and reach out through you is to really help these parents and just support them with the youth because we're really on this together, and it's a really great opportunity. On our next show, we have some other we're looking to get some youth that actually took the program to be on the show that we can interview. So you can also look back on my Facebook page. This is episode 3. We have 2 more. And thanks, guys. If you can have that ask, we appreciate you. If you have any questions, reach out to me or myself, Lev. I'm going to post the link underneath for our registration page. If you know any parents, reach out. That's really what we want to do. So thanks, guys, for tuning in, and have yourself a great Sunday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.